The Day of the Fox, the legend of Sharak. Sharak is one of the great mysteries of art. His story is not a matter of history, it is a matter of legend. Once, in a dark and beautiful forest in Japan, there lived a fox. The foxes in Japan at that time were witches. They were magical animals who could do all sorts of things that foxes have never been able to do since. They could change their shapes and become like other animals. They could become plants. By putting leaves on their heads, they could become men. Or children. Or even, so changeable were they, women. They could also possess people, who then became like foxes. Stupid people became learned. Silly people who were possessed by foxes became very solemn. This particular fox, who lived in the dark and beautiful forest, had never possessed anybody because there was nobody to possess in the forest. There were only other foxes and animals who might, or might not, have been themselves. The name of this particular fox was Kitsune, which was also the name of all the other foxes. One day, Kitsune decided to leave the dark and beautiful forest. He was bored, and he thought it might be nice, just for a change from mere changing, to possess somebody. So he went to the court of the Lord of Awa. And there he saw an actor named Saito Jirobe. Suddenly, Jirobe felt a slight prick on the left side of his chest. His mask fell off, and from that moment, Jirobe, the actor, was Kitsune, the fox. Now, Jirobe had been in love with Okita, and Okita was in love with Jirobe. But when Kitsune looked at Okita through the eyes of Jirobe, he thought that her plump face and her small mouth were terribly stupid. And without thinking twice about it, he said, "Oh, Okita, I'm bored. I'm going to the capital. Things are livelier in the city, and I'm going there to be an artist." "Goodbye," said the fox firmly. There was nothing left for Okita to do but cry. The tears rolled down her plump cheeks like pearls from a very sick oyster. In the city, Kitsune went straight to the shop of the publisher, Tsutaya. "I want to make some prints for you," he said. "Who are you?" asked Tsutaya. "I am Toshsai Sharak," lied the fox. He'd made up the name on the spur of the moment. "What kind of work do you do?" asked Tsutaya. "Here," said the fox, whose name was now Sharak, and he brought out some drawings. "Very good," said Tsutaya. "Very good indeed. If you like, you can do some portraits of actors for me." "Actors?" cried the fox, thinking of Jirobe for the first time since he'd taken possession of him. "Yes, actors," said Tsutaya. "When the play's open, I want you to go to work." Sharaku, who was also Kitsune and also Jirobe, started working. He drew, and he drew, and he drew. The drawings were made into prints. The prints were not a success. Tsutaya liked them, other artists admired them, but the people who bought prints did not buy them. In his anger, the fox began to be bored with the role of being a great artist who did not sell. 9 months had passed since the actor Jirobe had disappeared from the court of the Lord of Awa, leaving his Okita with little more than a word, goodbye. Okita could not understand it. So she went to a priest, and the priest said it was all very simple. Jirobe was possessed by a fox, and there was only one thing to do. She would have to prepare a banquet to the fox's order, and only then might Kitsune be persuaded to leave Jirobe. When the fox goes, Jirobe will return to you, O Okita, said the priest. In the city, Sharaku had finished his 3rd series of prints. They were not a success. And now the fox was really bored with what he was doing, and with people who didn't like what he was doing. They know what they like, he thought, but they don't really know. They would think twice about it. I think I will accept the invitation to this banquet. So the fox left Jirobe, and that was the end of Toshusha Sharaku, who in 10 months had produced more than 145 prints, many of them great works of art. As an artist, Sharaku had belonged not so much to Japan as to the whole world, and of course he still does. As for Jirobe, he belonged to Okita, and when he returned to her, they were married and lived happily for as long as they lasted. And Kitsune, the fox, when he had finished with his banquet, which had consisted of bean cakes with raw eggs in fish soup and red beans with rice and several kinds of meat, Kitsune, the fox, went back to the dark and beautiful forest and stayed there.